Travis Peterson. I'm a senior technical specialist for IBM. And I just want to talk about a few of the different areas where the Tririga application touches different roles within your organization, from safety management to disaster preparedness to planning of space and real estate, looking at leases and facilities and owned buildings, to move management, whether that be in the light of an actual emergency or in the light of now the return to work and making sure that we have the proper space management, to even larger projects like building out different types of space or different types of buildings for your different individuals. So as you can see, Tririga can touch multiple different areas within your application. So right now, I'm logged in as one of our corporate safety managers. And as you can see, right from the dashboard, they have emergency response projects. For those of you who are familiar with Tririga, using the templates, I was able to do that pre-disaster that David was talking about and get everything ready from a template perspective, so that if we had an earthquake that hit a particular area, maybe in California or somewhere else around the world, we could have a plan in place for that. Or maybe we had a person that tested positive for COVID-19 and we need to respond to that emergency. Or even after that, we need to get people moved into different locations, and we need to understand whether or not they are essential employees that need to be in the office or don't need to be in the office, or maybe what kind of support system they have from a home working situation. Like, do they have a laptop? Do they have home internet? Do they have a phone that travels with them? Or do we as an organization need to provide that to them? So right from the dashboard, we have that information. In addition, you heard David talk about when you have a room reservation. And here we've got set up where in our AC/DC room that anytime there is a meeting, the system will go ahead and block an extra 15 minutes or whatever predetermined time at the end of that meeting, create a work order to send out for someone to go in and maintain that particular space, and it will block that calendar so that the next reservation can't start within that respective time frame. So there are just a couple of different ways right from the dashboard that you can see information for someone like Steve here in that safety role. Other areas that fall in for Steve is being able to go in and look at different types of things on these reporting dashboard. Like if we're looking at a particular location and we want to look at all of the employees, maybe there was a employee that called in and said they had tested positive or any other thing like that, we can see, and this is, I just rank these based off of kind of some OSHA rankings on high risk, medium risk, low risk, but I could easily go in and say, well, I want to see every single person in the Charlotte Watson Center that is an essential office employee. And you'll notice here I have 4 of them, or 6 of them, of which 1 is high risk, 2 are medium risk. I can see how prepared they are to work from home. Do they require a laptop? Do they have home internet? All of that information is immediately available right to me from my dashboard. In addition, you can see other types of information for this person very quickly over here on my dashboard. Maybe I want to create a new emergency response project. I want to look at my dashboard. I might also want to go in and I might want to look at assessing some of the space utilizing the Tririga Building Insights. So as I start to look through my hierarchy level, and I can set it up as North America or via country or by building type or anything like that, I can drill right in, and you'll notice here I have 4 floors at that Charlotte Watson Center, the exact same building that we were talking about earlier that has that emergency response project, has those different levels of tasks that are associated to those reserve or reservations, those meeting reservations. And I can open up the TBI dashboard. Again, like David talked about, in conjunction with our partnership with Cisco, being able to look over the last 30 days in this instance and see what our occupancy rate is, see what our occupancy counts is and our allocated work points, or switching that and saying, I want to see 7 days, or I want to see near real time. What is the access? Or maybe I want to start to drill down into a floor plan. As I drill down into a floor, I can see which specific organizations are utilizing space, what their occupancy rate has been over a period of time or near real time, how many work points are allocated to them, or maybe I want to look at that in a floor plan view. Now, this particular floor plan is highlighting all of my occupancy rates, light blue to dark blue being the percentage of occupied. So down in here, not very occupied from an organization perspective. But maybe we want to look at a floor plan that has a little bit more social distancing already put in place. So let's jump into that third floor for Watson Center. Now, as you'll see, the third floor has in place green 6-foot circles that represent social distancing parameters. And you'll notice this checkerboard approach to space layout. Now, this one was done in a quick emergency type model where all we did was take out the furniture and remove all the employees out of basically every other location to give us that social distancing criteria. But we'll have some other floor plans that we look at in a little bit that we've now taken in some of the space planning details where we're starting to remove those additional cubicles or workstations, or we're reconfiguring offices to allow organizations to put 2 more people in a given space, or reconfiguring our large conference rooms because they're really not going to be of much value as much going forward, because we're not going to have those big 20 or 30 person meetings taken into account. So you'll see that over time. You'll see it all from the space layout. This is taking advantage of all of that space level detail rolled from the space to the floor on up to the building, and can go all the way up to the property level as well. In these, we'll then start to see where we have different allocated work points, the work point capacities. Those can change as I start to shift this to different time periods. Other areas where that can come into play is for other people within the organization. Now, if I kind of switch roles and I look at someone who might be more around planning for different types of moves or different stack plans, you'll notice that we'll have our supply versus our demand of space. We have our occupancy status by floor. I'll be up here in 1 second. You'll notice some quick links on the left-hand side to quickly restack some floor plans, manage different types of space, look at what our portfolio plans are. Take into account how our businesses are going to forecast any of their additional needs. Maybe they are forecasting that they can now let 30, 50, 74% of their employees work from home, and those other 36 or 26% that need to work from the office can. And we can look at what our occupancy status is to see if we have space for them. But in addition, taking that over to the stack plan. So you'll notice here, we had a consistent theme. We had that emergency problem, right? We had an employee that tested positive. We need to put that project in place. We're going to need to quickly do a restack of space. So as we can see, this floor plan has entirely too many people on it. Maybe I move them there. I move that organization there. I move that organization up there. I can save that, and I can immediately see, or I can add additional buildings as needed as well. And I can view that summary of everything that has changed across that stack plan. I can then move that stack plan or those stack details over into move management. So very quickly, I'm able to use that existing data. Even here at IBM, we're utilizing the Tririga data on a day-to-day basis to decide, how do we put our employees back to work? How do we do our space management? How do we manage all of our millions and millions of real estate square footage around the world? For this particular person, you'll also notice a couple different bookmarks. We've had that project that was going on that front page, where we had the safety manager looking at that emergency response project on there. Obviously, we're going to have to start to tie some dollars to these to see how much it costs. We're tying organizations that are responsible. We have different scopes for these. So you'll notice here, we were able to search through those employees, just like I showed you in that other one, decide who needed to be in the office, or in this case, leave all the non-essential employees off, or show the non-essential employees for the Watson Center, and be able to quickly add those in to the move process, which we've done here. Now, some of them are going to move home. Some of them might be able to be reshifted to different floors or different buildings, and tying that all in with the schedule. of critical tasks that need to happen, right? We need to assemble the response team, figure out how we're going to work remotely, do new space layouts for when this thing starts to come into play. And even at the same time, right, some of these aren't critical path, they're at the same time, being able to implement an office decontamination strategy so that we can start getting our folks back to work. So quickly, easily managing those projects. In addition, when we looked at that move project in that case, we needed to have a design change request. The floor plan layouts needed to be changed to tie into other information. So my move planner asked my interior designer, or maybe an outside firm, to give me some different design options for this floor plan. So in this case, they are giving me a couple different design options for this floor plan that ties in and allows me to go and see some available checkerboard type information, tying that in, looking at it from a different space aspect, and seeing all of that put to play with throughout my portfolio by maybe looking at some of the buildings. So let's go ahead and just quickly look and do a search at that Charlotte Watson Center. Show you a couple different options on that. So you'll notice here, I've got in my area details for my building, I've got my second floor and my third floor. I can see on my third floor, I can see how many people are on it. I can see exactly how my spaces lay out by simply turning on my good and my bad layers for social distancing. So you can see in this instance, I've got this area over here has been reconfigured. I can also turn on, if I turn off my space class, maybe I want to put on my occupancy status. I'll turn off my vacant common partially and maybe some of my over allocated. And as I zoom in, you'll notice these are all hatches. So I can see that I've got personnel in different locations, people spread out. Or if I come back to my third floor and take a quick look at my third floor and the same concept that has had, sorry, that one's already on, that has already had my space layout details done, I can go ahead and look at that same concept by turning off the space class, looking at my occupancy status. And in this case, I'm going to turn off my vacant ones and they'll be white. So you can see if we drill in, these are all yellow. They're all following underneath their social distancing standards with room for people to walk to different areas as such, bringing in that full checkerboard effect, and then being able to even bring that to a more detailed layout where we start to do design plans that lay out exactly what workstations, what the capacity is going to be now from a new normal at this particular floor plan. So as you can see, just in the last few minutes here, 15 minutes or so, we've touched on several different areas within the Tririga product. We've talked about it from disaster planning and emergency preparedness with our corporate security or corporate safety planner. We've talked about it from a move management and planning perspective. We've seen how our real estate team might be looking that they could go ahead and get rid of some of our leased space, or maybe we need to go out and get more space to adhere to any of the social guidelines, or maybe one of our buildings was destroyed in an emergency. We can look at emergency occupancy planning across our portfolio as well. We also looked at it from a project management, whether that project is the design and fit out of space, or how do we respond to a different type of emergency, whether that be a natural disaster such as an emergency. Maybe it's social disruption, or as you can see now, we're in the middle of the COVID pandemic. How do we deal with that? So the Tririga application gives you a lot of different ways to tie in all of the aspects of your real estate portfolio, your HR data, to disaster preparedness.